All right, so you're the when shit is hitting the fan, you're the man to speak to, because you know all the cities, you know all the targets, you know you could go through the strategy. So we've got, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, there's explosions happening as we speak in Iran. Air defenses are, we don't know if there's attacks by the US, but there's explosions in Bandar Abbas, in Shah Bahar in Balochistan, that's new. In Hormozgan, Syria, as expected. But we don't know whether this is the US, a new round of strikes by the US, but or these are air defenses active because of drones. But it's too many locations to be air defenses that are active. Well, what do you think it is? Is it enough to speculate that this is the beginning of a new round of strikes, considering the locations now they're spread across?
Yeah, the locations to me are of no surprise in terms of the U.S. strikes that we saw through period of darkness last night, and then in the response that we're seeing right now. Because if you look at, considering the Strait of Hormuz, Balochistan that you said in the beginning, that's this province. This is Hormuzgan and Balochistan province right here. Obviously, the Strait of Hormuz, Persian Gulf, or excuse me, Gulf of Oman, Persian Gulf, and then we saw strikes up. You know, in Bandar Abbas and Karg Island and Kashem Island. So it's the same series of targets, or the same target saturation area that we saw prior to the peace talks, or prior to the MOU talks. So it seems like the United States is going right back to that target list, that joint priority target list, or the JPITL, which is not surprising in terms of what I assess the United States wants to achieve. The response that we saw from U.S. strikes this morning from Iran was, 85 strikes between Kuwait and Bahrain. So when you think about, the size of Kuwait is about the size of Connecticut. The size of Bahrain is a little bit smaller than Rhode Island. 85 missiles and strikes going towards them. That's quite significant. The U.S. response being, again, concentrated at the Strait of Hormuz, with shaping fires or shaping artillery near Karg Island and Bandar Abbas. And I think that to me gives us a clear indication of what the U.S. strategy is going to be going forward in these next few days.
What do you make of explosions? And by the way, I'll have my producers, Stephanie, could check his internet now. We'll have you back. And I want to ask you about Balochistan, Anthony, as soon as you're back. But in the meantime, I'll just give an update to the audience. So Mera News reporting explosions near Konarak and Shah Bahar in Iran's Sistan and Balochistan province. The strikes, the explosions, sounds of explosions in Balochistan. I don't think we've seen reports of explosions in Balochistan for a very long time. Now, there hasn't been any confirmation that these are U.S. strikes, but I would be pretty confident that they are. Okay, we've gotten the first report that these are American strikes. So according to Al Arabiya, an Israeli official said the U.S. has informed Israel it will carry out powerful strikes against Iran overnight. Let me see if I can get some more information, because let's see if I can get anything from my sources of what the strikes would include, how significant they'd be. We're getting more reports of renewed attacks from multiple sources. Let me see if I can get some more information for you guys. Oh, the Colonel will be back with us shortly. They're just fixing his internet. Let's see. Yeah. I'll try to get more information. There are reports of explosions in so the Balochistan one. These are the reports we mentioned earlier. That's been confirmed by Iranian news outlets. So I don't know. I wasn't sure whether we're going to see strikes tonight, because the strikes have always been in response to Iranian strikes on ships going through the Strait of Hormuz. And Iran did not strike any ships today, as far as I'm aware, and I'm pretty confident. Otherwise, I would know about it. There hasn't been any confirmed strikes on any ships in the Strait of Hormuz. So that's why I thought there's maybe a possibility that the U.S. would not strike Iran tonight. At least they'd reconsider that decision if that decision was already made. But that's not the case. So there's also a report that came in earlier by Israeli media that could actually be accurate, by Khan News. Israel estimates the U.S. could carry out several consecutive days of strikes against Iran. Israel has also raised its alert level of readiness. Over the past 24 hours, IDF Chief of Staff Eyal Zamir held a series of operational assessments in Tel Aviv with senior officials from the Intelligence Directorate, Israeli Air Force, blah, 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 blah. And CENTCOM, the US has also begun refueling aircraft to the Middle East and Israel after they were relocated in Europe in recent weeks. So we'll bring that when we bring up the colonel. Let me see where he's at. Yeah, it's been confirmed, by the way. The US military is conducting strikes against Iranian military targets in the Strait of Hormuz area, according to Axios. So this has been confirmed. We are seeing round 2 of the bombing. You know, it's difficult to talk about an MOU right now. The MOU is still there. Trump did say, I want to mention the positive news. Trump did say positive news. He did say that he does not anticipate a resumption of the war. He said that today in Turkey. Everyone's focusing on the comments where he's talking about the MOU being dead, that there'll be a new round of strikes. He's talking about striking the energy infrastructure, blah, 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 blah. But he also did say, number one, let me find him. He said, this is not a war. It's the denuclearization of Iran. This is like Russia saying this is not a war. This is a special military operation. Pretty useless semantics. Second point he said is he talks about why would I go in now in terms of boots on the ground. He was asked about sending troops into Iran. He said, why would I go in now? I'd go in when they're completely either eliminated or whatever happened or an agreement's made. And number 3, he says, I don't think the war in Iran will start again. When they hit, we hit 10 times harder. We might hit them tonight. Anything that's going to happen is going to happen very fast. We are not looking for long term. So this is Trump kind of indicating he does not want to see a prolonged war. But what's important to note, you can't keep striking the Iranians and expect them not to initiate the war themselves, not to drag in the Gulf themselves. Now, there is a few things going in America's favor at the moment. Number one is the price of oil has gone down. So that gives more breathing room for Trump. And number 2 is the Gulf and Iran are in negotiations to improve relations. The Gulf, some reports that they've already unfrozen some assets. They've also, I think, Saudi, I think the Emiratis, maybe Qatar sent some aircraft to Iran as well. And that's the stuff we know about. There could be other deals done in the background that we don't know about. So that puts Iran in a tricky position because striking the Gulf now when you're improving relations and starting to do business again, especially countries like the UAE where Iran has billions and billions of dollars in the Emirati financial system, it would have consequences for Iran. So I think Iran would think twice before striking the Gulf. So that's something that goes in Trump's favor. But we have the colonels back with us now. Colonel, we have confirmation from Axios. So Al-Arabiya said that Israel was informed the US would strike Iran again. And then Axios just confirmed that CENTCOM just announced it as well. At the direction of the commander-in-chief, U.S. CENTCOM forces have started conducting additional strikes against Iran to further degrade their ability to threaten freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. The United States, The United States is holding Iran accountable for recent unjustified aggression against commercial shipping and civilian crews freely navigating the vital international waterway. Yeah, so look, my thoughts on this, Colonel, and obviously your thoughts are the ones I want to the audience wants to know about. But my quick thoughts is this is still a power struggle on who controls the Strait of Hormuz. That's what the US wants it to be. But my concern is you can't just keep expecting Iran to always just react. And maybe they decide, you know what, we're done with this shit. We're going to escalate. Trump stops the strikes, but Iran continues attacking. But the only issue I was mentioning earlier is Iran's options they don't have the same options they had before. Before they could strike the Gulf, and they could hurt the global economy pretty effectively because of oil prices being so high. Oil prices have dropped significantly. A lot of oil has gone out of the Strait of Hormuz. So that gives a bit of breathing space for the US. But also striking the Gulf is a bit tricky now when you're negotiating, improving relations and doing business with them over the last few weeks, and to attack them out of nowhere now. Iran is a bit more, not significantly, but I feel a bit more constrained. And that might have emboldened the US this time around. But I'd love to get your general analysis of everything we're seeing, considering now we know that these are strikes. We expected it, but we know that these are American strikes against Iran. And CENTCOM is saying this is degrading Iran's ability to control the Strait of Hormuz.
Well, we have an indication of how the United States sees this. Donald Trump today in Ankara at the NATO summit was quite clear that the Islamic Republic of Japan fired quite a few missiles and hit quite a few bases. So when you consider that the president is aware,
we have a new front. We have a new front now to take care of. We've got Ukraine.
Yes.
We've got Iran. Now South China Sea is blowing up.
And now, now the Islamic Republic of Japan.
Just for the audience, Trump misspoke today and called Iran Japan, just for anyone that doesn't get the joke. But go ahead, Colonel.
So the
now that you're back,
and then he mentioned that, and then he mentioned that we'll probably hit them again. And then he talked about hitting them tonight and that he shouldn't say it. And then he said, well, they can't do anything about it, so I'll say it anyway. So we are going to hit them tonight. So we know that there's additional strike. Next round is, but to in terms of the power struggle for the Strait of Hormuz, and it is not necessarily a power control of the Strait of Hormuz. It's a power struggle in terms of what leverage does that then bring to any renewed negotiations in the future. Right now, the United States hasn't really unlodged or changed any of the conditions to bring to the table in either the MOU or in control of the Straits of Hormuz, which is the kind of the critical piece, the center of gravity for what the United States wants to control, or at least have a time of control during negotiations as leverage to take that leverage away from Iran. So as I look at that and I think where, so does Iran have fewer options now than they did in the beginning? They have fewer options in terms of strikes in the region, but they have other options in terms of what they can bring to bear specifically in the Strait of Hormuz. The United States also has limited options in terms of strikes or ballistic missiles because the United States is also running low on some of our critical missiles like the ATACMS, the JASSM, the PRISM. We know that we're critically low and that we probably don't have very many in theater. I'm quite certain that when it comes to the PRISM missile, we probably don't have any left, maybe a couple. So that too changes what options are available for the US. Less options in terms of ballistic missile barrage, other options in terms of now what the United States Navy can do in the Strait of Hormuz. And I think what we're going to see, because of the strikes that the US has had over the last two responses, specifically at Qashem, Bandar Abbas, Karag, and now Hormuzgan, and that southern part of the strait, that's all in here, right here in that cup. And you remember the United States during the earlier periods didn't come into the strait. They were here in that outer cordon. So what did Donald Trump say today? He said that looks like I might put the naval blockade back in. I might do another one. So what he's told us, what I can see is the United States establishing another blockade. However, it's not going to be just the distant blockade south of the strait in the Gulf of Oman. It's very likely that the United States Navy with the USS Boxer, which we now know is there, the United States Marine Corps light aircraft carrier, the USS Wasp class Boxer, along with its Marine amphibious response group, and the USS Peralta, likely because of its capability, the USS Canberra, because it has made that push before from Oman, or excuse me, from Bahrain through. So we're likely going to see a Navy task force that tries to punch through the strait to establish a cordon on the north, basically controlling anything that comes into, and then in the south, being able to control anything coming in and out. Because the previous cordon or the previous blockade didn't really work. All the United States was doing was catching anybody that came through, but Iran had control. So I think we're going to see the United States do that. How does that unfold then in terms of this very strategic waterway, right? So here is the strait. Here's the channels. Here's Oman. Here's the Iran side. Here's that main channel through here. Not a lot of real estate in here that's navigable. So that turns into a battle zone. That turns into an engagement area at sea and on land. And I think the United States is going to attempt to punch through, maintain that cordon, and then establish an air corridor over, which means from the Oman side or the friendly side if you're U.S., and then to Qasem Island. There's an airfield right here on Qasem Island, about where that arrow is pointing. There is an airfield, and that airfield can manage aircraft from C-130s, obviously, to Apaches, A-10s, various other jets, F-35s. So that would then provide deeper strike capability, but then also aircraft to maintain an air corridor over the Hormuz province, or excuse me, the Strait of Hormuz. So that gives the United States the control in space and time that it needs for negotiation. But that window of time is slim, and Donald Trump must act on that quickly, because the time he's bought, the breathing space, because the oil has dropped, world economy is a little bit happier now that the Strait of Hormuz is open. He doesn't have a lot of peace dividend from when those will skyrocket again and people start getting a little antsy. So it's got to be soon. It's got to be now. It's got to be quick. I think he even said that in some of his words today. He said it'll be quick. We're going to do it. We're going to hit it, and we're going to get it done. And it's going to look like this. So I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to see the establishment of a naval corridor, 2 blockades, air corridor, and if, with the high potential of if, the seizure. And when I say that, I want to be clear. A seizure doesn't always necessarily mean boots on the ground. You can seize an objective by controlling it with air and naval assets. So could we also see something against Karg Island to hold Karg Island as leverage? I think we will. So I think that's what we're seeing in terms of the naval operation, air, navy, some land components in the next 24 to 48 hours. And it's gotta happen soon, or Donald Trump loses that breathing space.
There's a report here, at least 20 explosions at the Chabahar port. I think this is the biggest port in Iran, isn't it? I could be wrong. But there's 20 explosions at that port. I don't know if they're striking more of these fast attack boats. Also, there's initial reports, unconfirmed, because that's pretty significant if it's true, that a refinery was targeted on Lavon. That would be if a refinery was targeted, that would be pretty significant explanation. Do you agree?
Well, Chabahar is not only the largest, it is Iran's only oceanic port, meaning it's right there in the in Chabahar province. It's very large. It's not only for the processing and transportation of petrofuels and oils. It's also for military headquarters, commercial traffic, the swift boat fleet, its submarine fleet of those small mini subs. It's a very important facility or location. So the United States striking that, it seems now that the United States is taking directed hits at not only infrastructure that would provide the needed support to that military installation, but the oceanic port itself, which then cuts off Iran's ability to flex forces into this region. This is where that very large port is, right here, where we're seeing a lot of those strikes, right here in that province, in Hormuzgan and Changbar province. So to me, that looks like, if you're looking at where are the allies coming in the island hopping campaign up the Pacific, and the next island you start hitting is Iwo Jima with artillery. If you're Japanese, you look at that and you say they're coming to Iwo Jima next. So if you look at this in terms of where the U.S. is striking now very heavily, that's an indication of where the U.S. might try to move, because to bomb something but then not maneuver doesn't really yield a tangible result. So yes, I think that's what you're showing there is Chabahar port, and it is the only large and only full oceanic port.
Exactly. If you zoom out more, you can see the Strait of Hormuz on this top there. There you go. You can see the Strait of Hormuz there on the left, and this is Port Chabahar on the right.
And that's that's critical because it's into the port, the Gulf of Oman, and then subsequently into the Arabian Sea. It's a critical oceanic port for Iran, so that's going to be important.
Yeah.
That's
and also there's
right there.
Click on the bottom left corner, the layers, Stephanie, just so it's nice to look at it this way. There you go. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, this is, and then if you could show where Bushehr is, because Bushehr is being struck as well. That was all
Bushehr,
the way west.
You're gonna have to come up here. Bushehr is the coastal port. You're gonna have to go further north up near Karg Island. So go along the Iranian coastline, like you're heading up towards Kuwait.
Search it. Yeah, exactly. So that's being struck. But what do you make of power outages reported in Shabar? This is Bushehr there. You can zoom out from it. There you go. Zoom out.
So you see right there where you put the icon, that island directly off of it, that's Karg Island.
Exactly.
Bushehr is a docking area. It's not necessarily a port. When you think about a port, you're thinking about all of the port operations that go with that, like Los Angeles or Malakas or New York or the east coast of the United States. So this is a port, but it's not an oceanic port. It's a Gulf port, but it supports everything out of Bushehr supports Karg Island. So that is what give me those indications to where we saw Bushehr being hit some in the previous round of escalation prior to MOU talks, and the fact that the United States is re-engaging that in its target deck. When the United States decides to strike with tomahawks and ballistic missiles and rockets, et cetera, it's not just a free-for-all of, hey, everybody start shooting. These target decks, the Joint Priority Target List, JPTL, or the JPTL, goes to the command, it gets approved, it then gets tasked to various platforms to shoot it, whether that's a ship or a plane or a launcher or a satellite or whatever the soup du jour is for what's going to shoot the thing. They get assigned that mission. So these are all pre-coordinated. So the fact that we're now seeing Bushehr, we're seeing Bandar Abbas, we're seeing Qasem Island, we're seeing
potentially Lavan. Potentially, yeah, has been more reports of Lavan Island refineries been struck. So this is Lavan Island there, but that will be. Yeah, I hope this report is not true.
This is quite massive in terms of the breadth. I wouldn't say depth because we're not going very deep into Iran, but the breadth and the width from Karg Island all the way down to the main oceanic port. That's quite significant. Iran's response yesterday, or previous to this response from the US, was quite significant as well. If you think about, if you live in a country the size of Rhode Island and you take 85 ballistic missiles, that's pretty significant.
I've got something significant, Anthony. So there's reports of blackouts in Shabahar, but that means if there's power outages there, that means they would be targeting power plants, no?
Well, it depends on the expanse of the power outages. Like right here where I live, we had a power outage a little while ago because we have a massive storm that's coming through.
Was it Iran?
No, right here in North Carolina, which depending on the political environment,
they got long missiles.
Can be just as bad.
According to some,
you never know. I might pop up from reporting live from Tehran. We'll see. But I can't go report from Israel. They kicked me out of the country. They banned me, so I can't go there.
Oh, they did.
So I have been banned from Israel diplomatically.
Congratulations.
Officially. I have it framed. I'll show it to you. I have it framed.
When did that happen?
Last year, shortly after I came back and I was talking about Gaza. Yeah, I got the old punch your ticket, don't come back. But so when you consider the power outages, could it be power outages that are local to the fact that we struck facilities, or could they be larger area power outages because we've hit a power grid? We don't know that yet. I don't know that yet. To me, what it looks like is that we're specifically targeting the power infrastructure for that large oceanic port. I mean, Chabahar port you saw how big it was in there. It's big.
But that's what they're showing now is just so that this is the Bushehr Air Base. There's fire there, smoke there.
That's significant there that we're targeting specifically at Bushehr. Again, to remind the audience, Bushehr is further up on the coast of Iran with pretty much direct support to Karg Island. So the fact that we're hitting that airfield is quite significant, because that signals that the United States is attempting to take out any type of aircraft or drones or capability that Iran might be able to push from there, or the United States might be looking at that to actually conduct an airfield seizure and take that, because if you take Bushehr, you've got Karg without even having to put a boot on the ground.
And this is Chabahar. Go back to
Wow,
the first one, Stephanie.
Wow, that's these are significant hits.
Yeah, that's messed up. I really hope that's not a refinery is not true and the power plant is not true, because that'll be really fucked up.
Well, for Donald Trump now, the clock is ticking, because with every one of these missiles and now the threats of the strait being closed again and this and that, oil price, the barrel is going to trickle up. He doesn't have a lot of time before he's back into that, oh my God, we have to do something territory. So the clock is ticking.
Yeah, just looking at price of futures oil, relatively steady. So it seems the markets believe this is just the tit for tat. Sorry, this is not Chabahar. This is Bushehr, not Chabahar. My bad.
Okay, so that's Bushehr. Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, for Bushehr is not very big. It's a small port, primarily an auxiliary airfield, as you saw in the overhead satellite imagery. It's not a lot to it other than the auxiliary airport and what supports that airport directly for, because I would imagine, I don't know the Iranian logistics scheme, but I would imagine that the majority of what goes to Karg Island, the workers, because it's a large oil facility island, that all of that is done by small aircraft. I'd imagine.
I think let's talk about, so you can remove it, Stephanie. Thank you. Noor News, I don't know if that's Iranian, reports that Iran's armed forces will launch a massive attack on U.S. military bases in the region shortly. Obviously, it's expected. This is, by the way, this fire is an air defense installation near the nuclear power plant was targeted, not the power plant itself. I don't know if that's I'm not saying this is the fire, but there's been reports that the power plant in Bushehr was targeted. But this is now reports that what was targeted was an air defense battery there. Now, so Iran's response. You talked about the dozens of attacks yesterday. Trump said 111 anti-ship missiles. I don't know if he's talking about projectiles or missiles alone.
Yeah, but he said 111 missiles. But there's
no fucking way. That's probably
those came from Japan.
Okay. But there's no way they fired 111 missiles at the Armada, at the Navy, at a warship.
Well, it could have
111.
been.
That's a lot. Like,
also, do you have a poor Navy dude out there counting them? Oh, like 111. Could it be projectiles as well? Could it be between projectiles, right? Drones, missiles, rockets, anti-ship missiles. It could be. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, what I've always said is that each time there's escalation, or kind of a new round of escalation, within these rounds of escalation, there may be smaller. But if you look at how things have escalated since 28 February, Operation Epic Fury, the hitting, the stopping, the hitting, new escalation, the hitting, new escalation, each time this goes into kind of a cold storage, then back to hot with escalation, it's going to be more escalatory each time. We're going up the escalatory elevator, not the escalator. So each time we're going up, we're going to see more significant strikes from both Iran and from the United States. The problem on both sides is that the number of missiles you have, there is a limit. How do you use it? When do you use them? What are you trying to hit? Right now, this is like in like a boxing match, like towards the end of the round, you want to get another point in, you want to get another technical point, maybe get a knockout. You're going that last 30 seconds, you're just gassing. Well, that's what both sides are doing right now. Gassing at each other, because time is of the essence on terms of who gets what, to then say, oh, let's negotiate. Look what I have. Musical chairs, stop. I've got the Strait of Hormuz. It's a race.
Yeah. What do you need to see? What do you need to see to be like, okay, this is no longer, them kind of bickering at the Strait of Hormuz. We'll control it. No, you don't control it. No, we're going to control it. We're going to charge a fee. No, you won't charge a fee. How do you know where you went from that to, okay, we're going back into full-blown war again? What do you need to see for
well,
that?
we had that, right? Remember, before the funeral procession, we had the technical talks in Qatar. And those technical talks were specifically on the Strait of Hormuz, who controls it, how do you control it, is there a fee, is there not a fee, etc. And that kind of fell apart. We didn't really come to a conclusion. We didn't crack that nut. So when you look at it in terms of where does this go in terms of fighting to get to that answer, what you've got to take the plate away from the other at the table of negotiation. It's not a matter of, hey, we rearrange the vegetables and the fruits and the meat on the plate. Now let's talk. You have to take the plate away from the other to say, now let's talk again. It's my plate. There's no guarantee that the United States wins that food fight. There's no guarantee that the US gets that plate. It may very well stay in the hands of Iran because all they have to do is survive, hold out, and then when the smoke settles, boop, here we are. And by the way, we still control it because of the geography. This is not just a matter of politics. This is a matter of geography. Iran is the Strait of Hormuz. Kind of hard to have the Strait of Hormuz without Iran.
Yeah, it becomes the ocean of Hormuz. I want
the Strait of Trump.
If you could play that footage, Steffi, I just sent you of just a strike. That's the one on Shabar. We could play it with audio. Let's see. Just came out now a couple of minutes ago.
And that report from Noor News, that's probably pretty timely because Noor News comes out of Tehran, so they're from Iran.
Just to play it again. Just imagine the sound. I want to hear the sound.
That's multiple hits.
Yeah. That's probably the air base that we got hit. The port that got hit multiple times. Can you play the other one or push here? This push here. Oh, just smoke rising, nothing significant. Now you can take it out, Stephanie. First, it's just the sound of the first one. It's terrifying to be in a war.
It brings back flashbacks when I was in Israel during the 12-day war, and I was in Beersheba as Iranian ballistic missiles came crashing down. And the thing is, with the ballistic missiles, insane, it's not just the missile and the blowing up that gets you. The engine, the power engine of which these ballistic missiles fly, when the warhead detaches, that engine falls. It's the size of a car. Like I was in Beersheba, just outside of Morocco Hospital. Warhead hits. And I was like, man, that was big. And then there was a pretty large car. It was like a Range Rover about 2 blocks down, just by the engine that fell off of this thing. And I was like, that would kill you too. It's not just the explosion. It's all this stuff flying out of the sky. So it's scary. And those hits that you saw, that you showed us in at the port city, those were ballistic missile hits, either Tomahawk or ATACM. The kind of the way it exploded with that kind of sounds like an ATACM, the Army tactical missile, the large missile that the MLRS shoots.
This is allegedly, by the way, from the Nadasa power plant in Iran's Chabahar. Unconfirmed.
Wow. That's that same port.
But it says power plant. It says a power plant. The Nadasa power plant in Chabahar.
Yeah, you would most likely have a power plant near a port, like in Texas. Yeah. The large power plant is off the Gulf Coast. It would make sense to have it there. Wow. That's not going to buff out.
If you could also play this one as well. This is in this one. There's Sirik. A new video came out of Sirik. A lot of footage is coming out. What else do we have? And there's another image of, this is another video of Bushehr. Fucking hell, this is a lot, Anthony. That's a lot. Okay, so that image is okay. That image
is the U.S. response.
So this is no. So the same source just said that image is not accurate. So that image, everyone's an old image. We could all dismiss it. So it's not accurate. But there's that video just came out from Sirik. Sorry, this one's from this is Sirik Island. You can see a fire burning there. And then there's also This one here of Bashir. You could do it without audio. This one, there's a video of Bashir. Let me see the source of that one. Just another one of this is a more credible source than the last one. It's coming out of Iran. Again, everything we're showing you guys, this is in the fog of war. This is all coming out. Some of it, actually, none of it is confirmed, but some of it comes from multiple sources. This one does not. This is a Bashir. But it looks similar to the video we saw earlier. So that looks very similar to the first video we saw, the one that was blurred out. That's it, Bashir. It's a big fire.
Yeah, so where we're talking about where Bashir is here from Karg Island, just imagine you could probably see that fire from Karg Island.
That's insane.
This is a significant breadth and width of a strike pattern.
Yeah. I don't know why. I'm just struggling to really understand the calculation that the Americans have taken before striking, because it's
well, here's what I think.
Thinking?
Leave it
What's
or
the
take
thinking?
it or leave it.
You could remove the video, Stephanie. Yeah, exactly. Let me know what you think, because you made a point earlier that I fully agree with. It's like you keep striking around. They've just survived 40 days of mass bombing campaign. They survived it and they kept the closing Strait of Hormuz and they stuck by their demands. What is a few more days of bombing going to change? The Iranians know all they need to do. They don't need to strike the Gulf. They don't, unless things really get bad. They don't need to strike the bases. That's more symbolic. Keep the Strait of Hormuz under their control.
That's right. They don't have to piss everybody off and turn the Gulf into flames. They just gotta hold the strait. It's like being in the huddle on the end zone line with the football, and there's all that people on top. Who's got the ball, right? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how ugly that pile is. Who's got the ball? We know where the ball is. The ball ain't moving. Who's got it? That's the question. So, travel down this theory with me, if you will. I don't think the United States ever intended to make a deal. Not since the strikes on the 28th and the 1st of March, the 28th of February and the 1st of March, when the president was most likely briefed with a phone call with Netanyahu, with his SecDef and SecState and all of his advisors telling him that, hey, sir, we're going to strike hard. We're going to strike deep. We're going to decapitate the government. We're going to hit this. We're going to hit that. It'll be over. There wasn't any really thinking of negotiations. It was more of a, hey, you done, uncle? We win. The Strait of Hormuz, remember back in the time when the Strait of Hormuz was not in question? Remember the good old days? So in this case, now that's changed things. I believe that Iran's flex on the Strait of Hormuz did catch Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth, and the U.S. joint planners off guard. I think there was like, oh, wow, they did that. So now everything leading up to that, hey, let's talk, let's negotiate. What negotiation yet have we had in the whole history of this conflict that it made it past the first couple days? I mean, the coffee's not even cold yet. They're sitting at the big fancy table in Switzerland or in Islamabad. There's not even enough time for the coffee to get cold before the negotiation broke down. So from this most recent pause, I don't think the United States ever intended to agree or to see that MOU to fruition. I think the United States was using that time to restock, rearm, reassess, move forces, because during this whole period of the MOU, the US wasn't retreating or withdrawing. We were sending more forces, sending more missiles, sending more Marines, sending more airplanes. So I think that the United States used this period of time in negotiations simply to use time under the cloak of diplomacy. And this was always the plan. Remember, 2 weeks before we went into the MOU, and I don't know about you, but to me, the MOU kind of came conveniently out of nowhere, to where it's like, we're going to strike, we're going to hit, you're not going to have the strait. And then all of a sudden, we'll stop, MOU, bring it in. And you're like, what? Like that? No, we're still fighting. It was a trick. It was a ruse. It was a Trojan horse. It was a fugazi. And now the United States has to change the calculus, or there's no reason to go back to talks as long as the Strait of Hormuz is still in the hands of Iran. So how does the U.S. change that? You got to take it. That doesn't necessarily mean 10, 20, 30,000 boots on the ground. It could. I don't know the war plan. But could it be through Navy and air to at least hold it at bay, hold it at ransom, if you will? It sure can. And that's what it's looking to be. And I think that was always the plan. 2 weeks before that MOU came into fruition, Dan Kane, Brad Cooper, Mitch Bradley, U.S. SOCOM commander, U.S. Central Com commander, Joint Chiefs, Hegseth, other Navy commanders briefed the president on a war plan. This is it. This is what we're seeing. This is that plan, with a few adjustments from 3 weeks ago. But this is that plan. We're seeing it.
Well, there's reports of new strikes as you're speaking. Bandar Abbas and Sirik.
Back down in the south again.
Yeah.
Bandar Abbas is right there in that choke point.
Yeah. For me, like what they're targeting just shows to me like, I don't know. It does seem to me they're just fighting over the Strait of Hormuz. The question is, who will fold and when? Because if the US decided we will keep striking until Iran concedes, and Iran's like, we will never concede no matter how much the US strikes, that impasse is what worries me. I still think one of them will eventually blink or partially blink or both will blink. Mm-hmm. But the question is another question will be how far before they blink. Well, like, I turned off my Bluetooth on my phones in case the UAE is attacked, because that will be escalatory. This is a video.
I think the US blinks first.
I think so too.
I think Iran is coming out of this because remember tomorrow you have the burial of the Ayatollah Khamenei, Ali Khamenei, in the holy city of Mashhad, his birthplace. Millions of mourners. It is not only a time of national mourning, but a time of national pride as a nation. And I think it's going to further solidify the resolve for Iran to stand against this. So I think the United States flinches first, either because we start getting hit pretty darn hard in response. Remember, we don't know the scale of damage of the hits in Bahrain and Kuwait from the 85 missiles that flew in. We don't know yet. We probably won't know, but it hit something. So I think the U.S. flinches first. And as I said before, when we reset the table for negotiation, the leg's going to be broken off, the chairs are going to be on fire, we're re-putting this table together. Like, how do we come back to negotiate? I don't see the United States in a seat of power.
We have 2 airstrikes in Abu Musa Island. Reports of 2 airstrikes in Abu Musa Island. That's new. Haven't heard about strikes in Abu Musa for a while. Do you know where that is?
Let's
Can you show it? Okay, price of oil is starting to go up.
I think it's also, so there's Kashem. Isn't it kind of like off the point of Kashem, off of like when you come into the Persian Gulf, there's like Kashem, there's the greater and lesser Tanab, and then Abu Musa is kind of like right off of Bandar. I think it's like right off the coast of Bandar Lagan.
Yeah, I've asked Stephanie to show it on the map now. Let's see where it is. That's unconfirmed.
I think it's about.
You found it?
I think it's about right. I think it's about right.
Oh no,
here.
that's the one. Of course, I know Abu Musa. That's the one with the UAE. They're fighting with the UAE
yes,
about.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah,
the Abu Musa with the large natural gas field.
Yeah, that's right, very important.
So off of the UAE, where you have the large natural gas field where it's harvested at sea, Abu Musa sits right in the middle of it.
Yeah, so strategically very important for the control of the Strait of Hormuz. Remember how back in the day when we were talking about a ground operation, we would talk about Abu Musa, Tunub, Tunub, bigger and lesser Tunub.
Greater and lesser Tunub. Yep.
Yeah, worst case scenario was Karg Island.
But we're seeing strikes in vicinity of Karg Island as well. We're seeing
Karg Island was struck yesterday.
It was struck yesterday, but the hammering they're putting right now on Bushehr is the gateway to gaining control of that island. Again, the United States doesn't want to destroy Karg Island. That's going to make China and Russia, pucker up a little bit. Like, oh, what are you doing? Don't do that. So You take out Bashar, you control Bashar, you then control Karg without destroying it. So I think the destruction of Karg Island is a red line, and the United States is going to come right up to that red line to hold it, to say, hey, we got it. Don't make us destroy this. Don't make us do it. That's what the United States is looking for right now, right? The United States is looking for something to come back to the table and say, you know what? Israel's going to stay in Lebanon. We might give you some of your frozen assets back. You're not going to have a nuclear program. And oh, by the way, the whole Strait of Hormuz thing, you're not going to have any control over that. Or else we destroy this. You got to have something to bring to the table. The U.S. doesn't have that right now. The U.S. has got to go out and win that. That's either the Strait of Hormuz or Karg Island, or both.
Can I ask you another question on the power outage? So Mayor News just reported 2 docks and a maritime traffic control tower in Chabahar were targeted, causing a power outage affecting half of the city, according to Mayor News, the Chabahar city. But why would there be a power outage if 2 docks and a maritime traffic control tower was struck? Would it be a power plant struck accidentally? And the population of Chabahar is, just for context, it's a small, not that small, 170,000 people.
Yes, remember in the very, very beginning of our segment today, you had mentioned those attacks in Baluchistan province. So that's Baluchistan province. The Chabahar power station, depending on how they're calling it, it's called the Chabahar gas power station, but it's actually the power plant. So it's right there in Baluchistan province. It's outside of the city, but if that's been struck, it's not
the power plant has not been struck. Mayor News just said no damage has been reported at the Bashir. Oh, sorry, at the Bashir power plant, no damage. Sorry,
okay.
not Chabahar.
All right, so Bashir up near Karg Island. So if we're talking about back down south, back down south near the strait here, if that large port in Chabahar, if that power station was hit, I don't see that being something accidental. That would have been a deliberate target. That would have been a target on the target deck. There is a ship out there and a fire officer that had a Tomahawk missile with that plant on his list.
Explosions on Jusk.
Jusk Island is further down on the coast, closer. So if you're working your way up the border of Pakistan and Iran, and you're working your way up that border, you've got Baluchistan, you've got the power plant we're talking about right now, Chabahar. You go up a little bit more, you've got Stisk.
That's Jusk.
And then, so Jusk, if you recall, about a month and a half ago, Jusk is where the USS Peralta allegedly came under fire, according to the IRGC, by anti-ship coastal missile defenses. It was when we saw the video of the IRGC firing the big pointy missiles off the coast, off the big launcher into the ocean. That was there. So the U.S. is going back to all these same sites, and it's the pathway to the strait. You have to reduce, destroy, and then hold all of that in this order that we're seeing it happen to hold the Strait of Hormuz. So this is very clear to me just in the last few minutes of developments, that what we've seen over the last few hours, and now that the U.S. is making a deliberate and hard and sharp move to take the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, gain control of the Strait of Hormuz. Is it possible that Iran's military capabilities, its ability to keep the Strait of Hormuz closed, has been significantly degraded? Maybe it has. Because think about it. A lot of ships have gone through the Omani side. How many, we don't know, but there has been ships going through. Iran keeps saying, don't go through there, don't go through there. Stop the traffic a few times, but ships have gone through. So the question is, how many? How many went through without turning on their AIS? Everyone speculates. Some people say barely any. Some people say a lot. But the only thing we can look at is the price of oil, which has dropped significantly. So I want to put a theory out
something
there.
Got through.
Yeah, exactly. What if Iran's military capabilities have been degraded more than what we speculate? Maybe they are weaker than we expect. The reason I'm thinking that way is I'm trying to think of what would have convinced Trump to do this yesterday and today. What convinced Trump from being the person de-escalating, talking about the Iranian government taking care of its people, talking positively about the supreme leader, to now escalating and saying the MOU is dead. Is it just as simple as them being fed up with Iran controlling and charging a fee at the Strait of Hormuz? But again, what would these strikes change? Is it difficult to rebuild some of that infrastructure? Are they like, oh, we'll get rid of a few of their radars, a few of their fast attack boats, a few of their anti-ship missile launchers, and will degrade their capabilities of hitting ships in the Strait of Hormuz by another 20%. So what they're doing is throughout the ceasefire, they keep degrading and degrading and degrading Iran. Whereas, throughout the ceasefire. So in the negotiations, Iran would be, they'll be able to get concessions from Iran on the control of the Strait of Hormuz because Iran doesn't have that same ability it did earlier to be able to close the Strait of Hormuz.
Remember, in a war such as this, the defender that holds the actual key terrain. Remember, this is not terrain that Iran is going to just give up or leave. They can't. It is their territory. So it's either stand and fight or not. The U.S. is nowhere nearing getting Iran to capitulate in total. But kind of the way that it goes through my head in terms of what Iran's response might be right now to this is that in the movie Braveheart, in the Battle of Stirling, when all of the Scots are lined up and the English have archers, and the Scots, the other tribesmen, is saying, we don't have archers. They've got archers that can reach. And then he says, trust me, trust me. And all the archers fire. And what do? They all duck down and they put up their shields. And there's that moment of quiet where all these arrows are coming in. And then all the Scots get up and they're like, ah, some of them are dead. So it had an impact. It hurt, but they were able to parry. They were able to defend and fight on another day. That's what Iran is doing, fighting on another day until either the U.S. runs out of gas, runs out of missiles, or the price of oil goes up to the point to where Donald Trump can't take it anymore. So I think the conditions for this, the go signal, the, hey, sir, now's the time, was based on the price of oil, the hurt in the economy, or the projection of the hurt. In the U.S., we've felt some of the trickle. We haven't felt the real pain of the previous shutdown yet. So, hey, the pain's coming. The price of oil, 4th of July is done. The funeral procession's going on. Now is the perfect time to do something and blame Iran. We can take a few days of higher oil prices as long as it doesn't spike. Now's the time to go. That is what a military commander always provides to his or her higher commander. In this case, the higher commander for the CENTCOM commander is Donald Trump. So those conditions, imagine, you're in the Houston Space Center before the rocket launch. Hey, conditions met, this, same thing. Hey, price of oil, it's at this point. Hurting the economy, it's coming. How are we looking on military forces? Hey, we got the USS Boxer, we got these here. How many missiles did we got into theater? We got a whole bunch of them here, we got some here. It's not perfect, but we got enough. Is it possible to go now? Is it impossible to go now? Now's the time to go. This is that time. This is the trigger has been met. And I think that is going to be time and the price of oil.
Yeah, there's air defense activity operation in Isfahan. There's also 2 explosions were heard on Abu Musa. So yeah, that's Abu Musa.
Abu Musa.
There's also unconfirmed reports of outages, power outages in Konarak and Jask. If these are true, then this will be getting very worrying.
If we're seeing that large scale of power outages along that entire area,
then expect the Gulf to be hit.
Yeah, like if you're, the United States, if you hit something in Nevada and the power goes out, okay, you didn't hit the grid, you just hit a substation. If you hit the actual grid that runs all of the Western United States in the central Texas and you wipe out that grid, well, all of the Western half of the United States goes black. So are we seeing, black here, flicker there, or are we seeing a wave of black? If we're seeing a wave, a rolling blackout, then we hit a power plant. It looks like we're seeing that rolling blackout right up the coast. If we're now seeing it in Jask.
Yeah. Well, what would it take for Iran to strike the Gulf?
Well, it's going to depend on what Iran garners from intelligence on where these strikes came from. Did they come off of ships? Okay, well, that's not necessarily a
still
Gulf
striking
nation's
them.
problem.
Sorry, they're still the
Oh,
attacks
yeah.
are ongoing. They're still bombing Bushehr and Chabahar. It's non-stop.
Well, think about it. A missile destroyer that fires Tomahawks has about 52 on the deck. Imagine all of those ships, and let's not forget, both in the Mediterranean, you've got the USS Alaska, an Ohio-class submarine that's loaded to the teeth. Those ballistic missiles can absolutely reach from the Mediterranean to the Persian Gulf. No question. You also have another aircraft carrier sitting in the Mediterranean with its carrier strike group. So there's a lot of missiles out there for the U.S. to fire. But because we're seeing this so intense, this is that point to where when you bring all of it, when you call the rush, when you do the handoff, we're going to rush it in on the end zone for the big win. You got to follow it up. This is not going to be okay, we're done tit for tat, because this is going to put a huge dent in the amount of munitions that the United States has available after this. We're seeing, I mean, this is hundreds of missiles.
By the way, Mehr News, good news. Mehr News reported that the claims or reports of explosions, that the Kharg Island was bombed are inaccurate. So Kharg Island was not bombed. Also,
I don't think the U.S. will bomb Kharg Island.
Depends what. Could be just a radar. This is Shogatak was attacked as well. Yeah, more explosions in Sirik, renewed attacks on Bushehr and Chabahar, as I mentioned earlier. Yes, it's everywhere. Fucking hell, man.
Well, I mean, Donald Trump did say in his comments that the peace deal, the MOU, peace talks are off the table. No more. We're not going back to it. We're going all in. So if he means that, this is not going to be over anytime soon in terms of, it's kind of like you're hitting, the smoke clears. Hey, are they still there? Are they still alive? Are they still moving? Oh, hit them again. This is going, there's going to be a pause of like, okay, what's the damage? If Iran responds, it's like, okay, we're not there yet. How do we? But when you're the defender in this case, which Iran is, when you're the strategic defender, you can take a lot more. You don't have to move stuff there. You don't have to. You're not projecting. You're just taking the hits. It's like the three little pigs and the big bad wolf comes to the straw hut, the wood hut, and the brick hut. And by the time he gets to the brick hut, he runs out of air and then he quits. So Iran is in that brick hut. Is the U.S. going to run out of air? Being missiles, we might. It's a risk.
Barak Ravid from Axios just said that citing senior U.S. official reports that IRGC bases and UAV launch sites in Bushehr were struck. Same as always. We've got Robert Barnes, who you should meet, by the way. He's going to come up now to try to analyze what Trump would be thinking. The attacks, just before we say bye, Colonel, the U.S. attacks on Chabahar caused damage to Shahid Behteki Dock, Kalantri Dock, and the Maritime Traffic Control Tower. It just confirms what we've been saying. This is footage shows the destroyed control tower. Okay, that's interesting. That's footage. Can you show that footage quickly, Stephanie? This is the control tower. I'll see the map before we show the footage.
Just to give everyone, as she's showing the specific control tower, have her bring it up.
Yeah, before you show the control tower.
Then, but I want to give everybody. So what we're talking about now is we've seen strikes. We've seen strikes here. This is that Chandahar. We've seen strikes up in here. That's Bandar Abbas. We've seen strikes on Qasem Island. We've seen strikes in the
Abu Musa
Island. We've seen strikes along this coastline. We've seen strikes in Bushehr. We've seen strikes further up the coastline. And as you said, there was air defense activity in Isfahan. So when
we don't know if it was drones. We don't know if it's drones or what it was.
Sure, we don't know what it was, but something triggered air defenses. It could have been a bird. I don't know, but I mean, something triggered it.
And before you jump off, let me show you. You can show it now, Stephanie. Just the tower that was struck, the Maritime Traffic Control Tower. But
I mean, no telling where the Islamic Republic of Japan is firing their missiles.
yeah, exactly.
And you can't forget them.
Can you pause on the zoom and pause there? Yeah, this is it. This one of the towers that monitors the Strait of Hormuz. So again, there it just looks like
is that like the design, or is that the damage? Does it have like different colored tiles, or is that damage?
No,
That looks like damage.
it is the damage, yes. So this is after it was struck. This is after
Okay,
it was struck.
that was a good hit. Those things are, there's the one
Pretty
it's
hard to
it's
destroy.
famous that the one in at Baghdad International Airport, BIOP, on the military side during the shock and awe campaign. Everything else was leveled, but the air control tower stood, and it was, it took some damage. And that thing still stands to this day. You can be in the green zone, and you always know where BIOP International Airport is because that thing is still standing. That there's so much concrete in those things, but it looks like they definitely destroyed or significantly damaged the building part of it, the observation deck.
Yeah, is that the one you're talking about? Can you show this one, Stephanie? This is the one in Baghdad. Let me know if this is the one you're referring to. I'm sending you this is it here. So I'm just looking at it now. So you're saying these are hard to destroy. They've tried to destroy when they were bombing the...
Well, the entire structure of those things is just solid steel, rebar, reinforced concrete all the way, tens of feet into the ground in terms of the base of it. The top part of it, bunch of, glass and steel, obviously it took a pretty good hit. But as much as those things can get hit and bombs and everything else, it doesn't look that nice. But yeah, that's it. That's the one so BIOP, Baghdad International Airport. Right outside of BIOP is where the IRGC commander was struck by Donald Trump. So Baghdad International Airport, during the shock and awe of 2003, we hit the Yep, that's it. We hit the airport. We hit the runways.
It's still there, Anthony. It's
still there. It's still there. And every time you fly in or out of Baghdad, I always know, because sometimes you fly in and it's like you wake up and you're like, oh, are we going to Erbil, or are we going to Baghdad, or are we going to Syria? Which way am I going? Because you fly back and forth, and I always just look out and I see, oh no, we're in Baghdad. There it is. Yep.
This is show this one I've just sent you, Stephanie. This is the one that just struck now. So this is Iran's eyes over the Strait of Hormuz, and you can see the positioning of it.
Oh, wow.
At the straits. Yeah. This is the one they struck.
Yeah. That's pretty fancy.
So they're pretty clear. They don't want if they're well, this is another video of a strike. But if they've been trying to tell Iran, we don't want you to charge a fee to the Strait of Hormuz, they're forcing them to concede on that point. So the carrot and stick approach. What they do is you'd offer them, hey, we'll give you lifting of sanctions, we'll unfreeze X amount of dollars if you don't charge a fee and go back to the way it was. But if you don't, we'll also we'll bomb the hell out of you.
So this is that's a great way to put it. That's we're seeing a little bit of both right now, right? To where, oh, you want to charge a toll? Yeah, we're going to charge a toll. Not if I blow up the toll booth. How are you going to charge a toll if I blow up the toll booth, right? So that's what we did kind of off of Chandahar and in the strait itself. It's like, you ain't going to charge a toll if I blow up your toll booth. You still want to charge some tolls? Well, we're not ready to give up yet. Okay, well, now I'm going to destroy all the infrastructure around it. One way or another, either by will or might, you're not going to charge tolls. That's what the U.S. wants. It's still undecided. It's still unclear of whether or not the United States will achieve that. This is not a done deal. This is not a guaranteed success. In fact, I think when the smoke settles and the bombs are done, the U.S. comes back to an agreement that looks a lot like what it may have been, with even having to give up a little bit more.
And last quick question before we say our goodbyes. Do you expect anything other than Kuwait, Bahrain to be struck tonight in response, or the same old Kuwait, Bahrain, potentially some anti-ship missiles?
If Iran responds, we're going to see anti-ship missile activity in the strait. We're going to see Bahrain and Kuwait likely, and possibly Jordan, because there's a big military buildup at the Prince Hussein Air Base in eastern Jordan.
Yeah. Anthony, always a pleasure. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Take care, and I'll be watching the next guest. I'll be interested to hear what he has to say about the Trump part.
Robert is great. Yeah, Robert. I'll connect you guys. He's a great guy. He's a regular.
Yeah, connect us. But I'll be offline. I'll be online, but out of the room.
I'll be hitting you up. I'll be hitting you up. Anthony, they're striking quite. They just struck the UAE. Come back. Please help me make sense of it.
And I'll just
They just
pop
keep
up
an eye
behind
on the
you with my little. I'll just pop up behind you with my little map.
phone.